Chapter 4 of New Adventures of Alice by John Ray. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Chapter 4 Fire. All was confusion and excitement. Some of the Mother Goose people were running in one direction and some in another. Most of the crowd were trying to squeeze through the town gate and seemed to be hopelessly stuck in the narrow opening. While Alice stood wondering in which direction the fire really lay, she noticed nearby a little man in green, pointing excitedly with a long flute. Looking in the direction in which he was pointing, she saw, through an opening between the bakery and the barber shop, a thin column of smoke, which seemed to come from behind a barn in a field about half a mile away.
"That must be it,"
thought Alice.
"for where there's smoke there must be fire."
Just then somebody collided with her so violently that she was almost knocked off her feet.
"I beg your pardon, miss, but really, you know, miss, you should be more careful how you stands about staring. That was, as you might say, a close shave. I might have cut your hair off."
It was the barber. He held a large nicked razor and a mug of lather in one hand, and an unfinished wig in the other. He was very much confused and flustered by the collision, and began to mutter,
"I'll never get it done. I'll never get it done. That I won't. Something always interrupts."
He seemed so unhappy that Alice, wishing to divert his mind, bethought herself of the pie and politely offered him a bite.
"Thank you, miss," said
the barber, brightening.
"A pinch or two, a pinch or two. It's just what I needs."
Puzzled by his words, Alice looked down at the pie and saw to her surprise that it was a pie no longer, but a very large round snuff-box, the cover of which still slightly resembled a pie crust, being made of yellow ivory inlaid with flying blackbirds. The edge was scalloped.
"You're very kind, miss. I'm sure you're very kind indeed, though I'm bound to say,"
he added,
"as how ladies doesn't usually carry."
"Look!"
cried Alice.
"Who are they?"
Two quaint figures, a boy and a girl, were coming down the street in long leaps. It seemed to be a sort of race, and the strange girl, who had just cleared the maypole in a tremendous jump, was slightly in the lead.
"It'll be Jumpin' Joan and Jack Benimble, of course, miss. They always gets to fires first,"
muttered the barber complainingly, and then, struck by a bright idea, he shouted at the fast-approaching figures,
"Give us a lift! Give us a lift!"
And turning to Alice,
"Itch on and hold tight."
The next moment Alice found herself clinging to Jack Nimble's hand and leaping with him over the candlestick-maker's shop.
"Just like big grasshoppers,"
she said to herself. Soon they could see the fire distinctly.
"It's the king's haystack, just as I thought,"
said Jack excitedly.
"and we ought to be the first ones there. I hope that big barn near the stack doesn't catch fire, for all the king's horses are in there."
"Maybe Boy Blue has been playing with matches,"
ventured Alice.
"That looks like the picture of the haystack he always takes his nap in."
"Listen, there's the new fire alarm,"
cried Jack, bounding along in his excitement faster than ever, so that they really seemed not to touch the ground at all.
"It's the cat, you know. He's paid by the town according to the amount of noise he makes, and,"
he added with a happy sigh,
"he can make a delicious amount when he really tries. He plays a fiddle and a pair of bagpipes at the same time."
"Oh, there he comes now, out of the barn,"
cried Alice, as the caterwauling din rose louder and more piercing.
"And look at the fire now! Do you think—"
"It was all our fault, too,"
interrupted a familiar voice at her elbow, in a hoarse stage whisper. She turned to see the snipe, who was flying along by her side. He seemed very much agitated, and there was an air of mystery about him.
"That is to say," he
continued,
"it's really the baker's fault, you know. For if he hadn't let those buns escape and fly away, we never would have dropped that dratted pipe."
Here the snipe hesitated a moment, looked this way and that, and then, getting very close to Alice's ear, whispered louder than before,
"It must have been that pipe that set fire to the king's haystack. If the Prime Minister finds it out, we'll go to the dungeons, of course."
"I don't quite see why he says we shouldn't have dropped the pipe, and we'll go to the dungeon,"
thought Alice.
"I had nothing to do with it, I'm sure."
She had begun to feel very impolite not to have introduced Jack Nimble to the snipe. Then, too, it seemed extremely rude for the snipe to continue whispering to her and ignoring her companion.
"Have you met my friend?" she
began, but when she turned it was quite a different person from her leaping partner of a few moments before, whose hand she now held. He was a strange little spindle-legged man, rather shabby, with very long hair, large wistful eyes, and a friendly smile.
"I'm the poet. Jack was only a disguise. Have to do it, or they'd get me, I surmise,"
said he, pointing back at the crowd they had left far behind. Alice, the Snipe, and the Poet were now walking hurriedly across a broad, stubbly field toward the burning haystack. As they approached, a cloud of ladybugs passed over them, coming from the direction of the fire.
Poor things,
said the Snipe remorsefully to himself.
They probably lived in that haycock.
Let's watch the blaze a while from here, until the townsfolk get too near,
suggested the Poet, smiling at Alice, and added,
Then we must skip, you know, my dear. All three of us have cause to fear.
Alice now noticed that the first time the man wore a little black brass chain about his neck with a metal tag, numbered 333. She wondered what it could possibly be, but was, of course, far too polite to ask on such short acquaintance.
My poet's licence, as you see. My number is 333.
The Poet remarked pleasantly, noting her curiosity.
A thing I'm very proud of, too. Becoming quite, I think. Don't you?
All this time the smoke from the hay was growing blacker and thicker, and the din of the fire-alarm bagpipes was getting louder and wilder, and the scraping of the cat's fiddle more shrill and piercing. Now from the big barn near-by came sounds of trampling feet and ungrammatical shouts of,
That's him! That's him! There he is!
And what seemed to Alice like hundreds of archers, each with a big gold crown embroidered on his left sleeve, rushed pell-mell out of the big barn door.
We're lost! Alack-a-day, friends, we must flee! All the king's men! I know they're after me!
Exclaimed the Poet.
It's me they're after, neighbour, if you must know,
said the Snipe a little jealously.
I dropped the pipe that caused this fire in the king's hay.
Alice was a little frightened, it must be confessed, and very impatient at the Poet and the Snipe for waiting to talk when it did seem as though they should all have been running for their lives. The archers had drawn up in a line in front of the barn, and the one who seemed to be their captain stepped forward and gave the commands.
Ready? Aim!
The Poet turned to Alice excitedly and whispered very rapidly.
I have a plan. We'll wait until they shoot. Each grab a shaft and out of danger scoot. Then
Fire!
Yelled the captain of the king's men, and the air was full of flying arrows.
all aboard! Don't be slow! Hold on tight! Home we go!
Shouted the Poet. Whirr! An arrow whizzed by close to Alice's head, and following the suggestion of the Poet, she grasped at it as it flew past and scrambled aboard.
An arrow escape,
she heard the Snipe chuckle. The goose feather tip made a very comfortable springy seat, and she could hold firmly to the shaft near the head. The arrow was going at a frightful speed, and the wind whistled behind Alice's ears. In fact, it whistled a real tune.
London Bridge, and very prettily too. I wonder if Bluebells of Scotland comes next, as it does on my music box.
She had just turned to see if the Poet and the Snipe were anywhere near her, when suddenly everything grew black as night, and she realized that they had dived into the thick cloud of smoke from the fire. Alice clutched the arrow tighter.
For,
she said to herself,
it would be very nasty to fall into the fire with this clean pinafore on.
Somehow the shaft of the arrow had grown softer and feathery, and when Alice looked down she saw that it was now a fat grey goose she rode. The goose seemed to have lost her way in the dense smoke, and was flying hither and thither in an aimless fashion. The smoky darkness was full of sparks.
Or are they stars?
She wondered.
And isn't that the light from a little window way off there?
The goose seemed to have seen the lighted window too, for she stopped darting about and flew very rapidly in that direction, murmuring half under her breath,
That's the house, I'm sure. I smell the cakes a burning.
As they came nearer, Alice saw that the light came from a tiny little thatched cottage, built high in the air on 4 tremendously long poles.
Why, it's all upstairs,
she exclaimed.
To prove that I'm erratic, I built my house all attic,
said a voice near at hand, and there was the Poet flying along beside her on a goose exactly like hers. End of chapter 4.